All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Wall Street Rundown. I'm your co-host Billy. I have Wale with me. What up, Wale?
How you doing? How you doing?
Doing good, man. So today is Friday, May 16th, 2025. The stock market kind of closed a little higher. We closed the week a little strong after the whole trade tension and all these different things. Dow Jones actually went up by 0.78 today. They closed at 42,654 and 74 cents. S&P went up by 0.70% today. Actually, we closed 41 points up. NASDAQ also closed 0.52% up. But yeah, man, I think the whole China effects was still impacting the market. So we've seen some stuff moved up a little bit. The one thing that I would say is I want to get your opinion on this. The treasury yield, the 10-year yield closed at 4.437%, up 0.063% points for the week. So we're still seeing the treasury, the bond is still moving up a little bit also. Um, the other thing I wanted to bring to mention is the housing market. The new home construction and building permits have declined year over year. So does that mean potential strain in the housing sector? I don't know. So yeah, man, let's talk about this week. What was your thoughts about all the stuff that was happening this week?
So remember last episode I was saying, right? Stocks were moving higher, but I was like, yields were still moving higher as
Mhm.
well. So I said I was gonna just keep my eye on that and take that as a grain of salt. And then what do we get today after the market closes? We get Moody's
Moody
finally
downgrades.
downgrading the US debt.
Yep.
As far as the housing market is concerned, I know affordability, especially, I don't know what it's like in your area, but I know in California, affordability is going down
Mhm.
because people need more money to buy a home now. So, housing builds and permits are looked at as leading indicators. So, if that is something that is starting to slow down, people are going to start looking at that as a potential omen for the economy slowing down as a whole. I know Jamie Dimon talked about not taking off a potential recession off the table. So that's something that,
Yeah.
he's saying that it's we're still not out of the woods. But with the downgrade to the US debt going into next week, I will say that that is not a good thing for stocks. You're probably going to see yields spike because, again,
Right.
if your credit rating goes down, you're less of a credit worthy customer. Basically means that your interest on your debt is going to go up if you need a loan. So
Mhm.
the interest, the interest payments that the U.S. is going to now have to make on issuing debt is going to go up. So I'm pretty sure TLT is down after hours, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yep.
Yep,
Yep.
TLT took a nose dive after hours. Yeah, not a good thing for
Not a
for stocks in general because yeah, not a good thing.
Yeah, for those of you who might not know, but Moody's Investor Services did downgrade the U.S. government's credit rating today from its highest level. So it went from lowercase a, lowercase a. If you go look at the chart, it's funny. Like you have AAA, all uppercases, and then you have AAA, one uppercase. Like they all have kind of meanings, whatever. But we got downgraded from capital A, small case A to capital A, small case A one, which means we went
Yeah,
down one
one
level.
not. So from the
Right.
highest credit rating to the next highest credit rating.
Right.
So
So we're kind of like
um,
in that middle piece, basically. We're not too low, we're not too high either. It's like we're like
correct.
right there. Uh
And the thing I will say about that is to be if I'm being 100% honest, to me it should be lower.
why do
It
you
should,
why do you say that?
and the reason why I say that because if you just look at how the debt has increased over the last 14 years now since the first credit rating dropped. So the first downgrade we got was back in August of 2011, where Standard and Poor's, which is so there's three credit rating departments. There's Standard and Poor's, there's Fitch, and there's Moody's.
Mm-hmm.
2011 August, I remember that day very very vividly. S&P downgraded the U.S. debt. Did the same thing. Stock market sold off pretty aggressively back then.
Yep.
Now, 2023, Fitch downgraded the US stock market as well. And if you look at where that happened in August of 2023. And if you look at where the market ended at the end of 2023, stock market sold off as well. Now, eventually it rebounded to all-time highs, but we saw a pretty substantial sell-off in the back half of 2023 after that downgrade.
Right.
Now, Moody's, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, might be the oldest of the three credit rating departments, and they are now downgrading the US. So I'm expecting, if you look at the after hours, all stocks are down, all the
All
indexes are down.
stocks. Yep.
We
Yep.
don't know if it's going to get bought up over the weekend, but I'm pretty sure there will be a substantial drop going into Monday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you just look at the trajectory of where the debt is going, it's very, very unsustainable. And the only reason why, to me, it's only gone down one notch is because the US has the ability to print money to cover the debt if they need to. Like they're not going to default. Like they're
Right.
not going to make their debt payments
Right.
because if they want to, they can print money. Now, the big issue that we're having right now is the spending bill got struck down in Congress today. And the issue, which doesn't make economic sense. So let me paint you a picture. Let's just say you are a consumer. You have $50,000 in debt, right? You're making your minimum payments as you should, but you're starting to increase more debt. You're bringing in the same income every year. And then all of a sudden, one day you're like, you know what? I'm going to work less, so I bring in less income. That's essentially what the US government wants to do by cutting taxes. Because remember, the only money that they can use to pay their debts are money from taxes
Texas.
and money from tariffs. They're trying to take in less money from taxes. This is a situation where taxes need to increase so that you can chop some of the debt down.
Mm-hmm.
I know tariffs are helping bring down some of the debt, but I think they said that they still ran a $1 trillion deficit so far this year. And if you continue to issue debts, we talked about this, to cover
Mm-hmm.
your gap in expenses, and rates are moving higher, it is getting more expensive to issue debt. I mean, what did I just send you a couple days ago about the potential cost of debt over the next couple
It
years?
was ridiculous. Like that number. Hold on. I gotta read that because that's
Yeah.
for me,
Net
that's
interest payments between 2026 and 2035. This is just interest payments, not even just paying down the debt. 13.8 trillion is what people are expecting. You're paying $13 trillion in just interest. I mean, talk about
that's
hustling
that's
back.
that's 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 more than some other people, some other countries, few countries GDPs put together. You know what I mean?
That's
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 that's that's
that's
crazy.
that's called hustling backwards. So that is going to be an issue overhang over the government. Now, can the stock market eventually recover from all of this mess? Yes, we've seen it twice already. Markets recovered. But for now, it is possible that we could see some of the gas that was infused into the market after the China deal start to subside. It is possible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see what
Yeah.
happens Monday.
Yep. I mean, I won't be surprised if we hear from the president this weekend, to
Hmm.
talk about that. So I'm trying to see what or how we're gonna react to this news.
Expect some tweets.
I mean, honestly, I think here's my prediction. I think we are gonna see some sell off. We are gonna
Hmm.
see maybe like a gap down on Monday,
Hmm.
but as has always been happening, the dip is gonna get bought up. And I think that's what's gonna happen. That's just my opinion on it. So if you are willing to trade that dip, we're willing to trade that gap down that we're gonna have on Monday, you might be able to take advantage of buying the dip and all this stuff. But I think the president is gonna come up on the weekend and say, this really doesn't matter, blah blah blah. We should always support the U.S. economy, and then the next, the market's gonna go back up again. So we see it happen over and over, man. So it's like at this point, it's like you gotta know, you gotta expect it. You anticipate what's gonna happen, basically.
Now, I will say this though. So let me just give you something. Let me just give you some perspective from the last downgrade we got in 2023. Because if you look at SPY during that downgrade, so that downgrade happened in August.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at my chart, yeah, SPY went from 455 all the way down to 409 at the end of the year.
Mm.
But then at the low of 409, you see SPY went from 409 to all-time highs of 613. So it took from August to November, so August, September, October, November. Over the course of 4 months, the market did lose momentum. I think we did breach the 200-day EMA after it did kind of bounce because I
Yeah.
think no October was a nasty month for 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this is going to happen. I'm not saying that it's going to history is going to repeat itself, but just understand that if the dip gets bought, we still have to figure out. Now, my question is how is the Fed going to react to this?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm worried about because we also have to remember that I think in during this time frame, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Fed was raising rates as well. I'm not sure because I know they started doing it in 2022, and I'm not sure if they were raising rates also in 2023. But it is possible that they were still raising rates,
Yeah.
and that could have been a catalyst why the market continued to sell off. Now they're kind of holding rates and they're pausing
Right.
and they're trying to cut. So that could, that could help. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how this works out on because I think the 30-year yield was getting close to that 5% area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know that 5% area is an area that stocks don't like. So we'll see where the things open on Monday. But yeah, not a good omen for stocks at this moment.
Yeah. Nevertheless, it's gonna be pretty interesting time come Monday. And maybe the market will just brush it up. But the way it reacted after the market, after hours, I think some people dumped some significant amount of stocks. If you can see, everything kind of did like a took the low of day basically. If you look at all the
Hmm.
stocks, so yeah. But moving on, man. One of the interesting things I know we talked about a little bit about United Health Group stock. I don't know if you guys paying attention today. That thing was up 6% today. There was a crazy, crazy rebound. So this uptick is basically based on insider trading. So a lot of directors have starting to buy their stock from inside. So a lot of inside buying going on happening. So typically that usually means that they have a belief in the company long term, and they probably like trying to buy the stock right now a lot, as it's cheaper. But um despite all of this, I mean, it's still kind of below its high, and people are still monitoring the whole DOJ thing to see what's gonna come out of that and how it's gonna impact the company's future. But man, that thing was up like crazy today. If you would have swung it, you probably would have made some good money. But then after hours, it kind of dropped to like 1.4%. So a little bit of drop after hours.
So I also saw in the options market that people were also buying leaps, millions of
Yes,
dollars of
especially the
leaps,
January one.
yeah,
Yes.
for UNH. Now I will say this. I know people are looking to buy a stock that is oversold and are probably betting on the fact that whatever problems that they
Mm,
have will get resolved. But I want to highlight that if you go back to their last earnings call, that's when they first had that big drop.
mhm,
That earnings call back on, this was back in mid-April. They highlighted a lot of things in that earnings call that were a red flag for their company. And one of the things that I always want to tell people is that if you're going to buy an oversold stock or a name that's been on bad times, don't buy broken businesses.
mm,
Buy broken stocks. If the core business behind the stock is still intact and there are no red flags, I'd be a buyer of leaps. But if the core business is broken and it's also reflecting in the stock price, I would be a little bit cautious.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind. I would go back. You can probably go back and go listen to that last earnings call. It's probably on their investor website, investor relations website. You can probably find it and listen to it. If before you buy Leaps and you want to hold this name long term, I would probably go back and to look at that last earnings call and make my decision based on that. So, but the insiders, if they're buying, that could be a good omen where people are saying, well, if the CEO and the CFO and all these executives are buying, then why not buy?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, a stock that's down 50%, I mean, definitely I would say oversold, but also just you want to make sure that the business, their core business is not broken behind the scenes. So
Facts. Yep.
yeah, take a
Yep.
look at that as well. So yeah, just want to put that out there before people just go out there and start throwing their money out there blindly.
And people probably are just out there just buying it, just to because they see like
Yeah,
the
if
stock
it's a
going up.
quick trade, hey, I ain't mad at you.
Right.
If you caught today's if you caught today's move, I know you ain't mad. But if you're gonna buy leaps and hold them long term, don't buy broken businesses, buy broken stocks. So
Right. Right.
yeah,
That
like
that's a good way to put it. Don't buy broken businesses, buy broken stocks.
yeah,
That
like
that that
if you
fundamentals really haven't changed on them.
but the fundamentals have not changed. So like if you look at what caused the drop for like let's say Nvidia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nvidia got down to like $88 in mid-May. I mean, in mid-April after the Liberation Day. That was basically a grand sell-off of all companies. But you dig behind the scenes, you look at the business. Is the business broken? The business is not broken,
It's not broken.
and that's why it
No.
recovered. So,
Yep. 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 So let's move on, man. Let's talk about this week. The best performing sectors in stocks. I know you say you have a couple of them that you want to talk about, but I just wanted to be able to mention some of those. I want to bring on Tesla. Tesla has had a phenomenal week. I mean, our leaps and even like the short term swings are doing numbers. You know what I mean? We had a after hours, it kind of dropped a little bit, took the low, but it's like I'm not worried because we still have some long time still on those leaps. But man, I am glad I got that because that's definitely saving my portfolio among other things.
and I think we talked about that. If it broke above that 200 EMA,
Yep.
the stock was going to 300, and it got to 351.62 at the high of this week.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that stock has been on a crazy trajectory. Now, I will put this out there. Tesla is probably one stock that does not trade on fundamentals.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does not. Because if Tesla traded on fundamentals, it would probably be like a sub $200 stock based on that last earnings report.
Facts.
I don't think I've seen a stock do what it's done after an abysmal earnings report. Tesla is one of the exceptions to the rule. I will
Yep.
put that out there because if
Yep.
you try to trade Tesla on fundamentals, you're gonna be very frustrated.
Very, very frustrated.
Yeah. So
So a couple other ones also that we kind of paid attention to. You mentioned Microsoft, IBM, and SQQQ.
yeah, so
Um,
we took on a few really good trades
mhm.
this week in our group. Microsoft was a one that we discussed this week, and I think we entered Microsoft around 447.
Yep.
That thing shot all the way to a high of 456 this week. So if you were in our group and you caught that move, congratulations. That was a really nice move.
Yep.
Another one that we had a really good swing on, like that was over 100% gain if you caught that swing, especially unless if you bought short-term leaps expiring this week, you probably made a little bit more money. But IBM was another one we caught yesterday.
Yep.
We caught that move from above 458 to about 467-ish.
You mean
Another good
two
move.
267.
267. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
258 to 267 this week.
Yep.
That was another really, really good trade this week. IBM, one of the older tech companies out there, still doing very well. And if you look at IBM over the last, since June of last year, that stock has actually done
Yeah.
very, very
IBM
well.
been moving. IBM has been
Secretly,
moving. Yeah.
yeah, that has been a really steady climber over the last 6 months. And then
Why did
another,
I'm trying to see why did it run up this week? Oh, was there any news?
I think they had an earnings report maybe sometime in late April. And ever since that earnings report, it's been a pretty steady climber.
Right, I see it.
Yeah,
I see a lot of insiders also buying it, so that's another reason probably.
gotcha. And then we also caught a move since QQQ was moving higher this week. We caught a nice move on SQQQ puts, and that now has hit the low of the year, it looks like at 23.30, but
Gee.
that thing might spike up
It
over the
might go back
weekend.
up. Yeah, it might go
Yeah,
back up.
might spike
So,
up over the weekend. But yeah, I think we did not miss a trade this week in our group. I think we shot 100%.
yep, every single one of them.
Every
Every
single
single one of
one.
them. Yep.
So, and I think Dell today was another one that was a pretty good trade as well. I think Dell was up about 3% at the high of today. We caught that move from about 111 and some change all the way up to about 115. So,
I
yeah, so
mean, I also see that. Oh, what is that other one? There was another quantum one that was moving. I believe it's what is it? QBTS. I don't know if you saw that. It's called D Wave Quantum. That thing was also moving this morning also.
oh yeah, I see it now. Yeah, that thing got up to about from it's up 11% today. Woo.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Yeah, this is one of those ones that made a really aggressive move at the end of 2024.
Yep.
And then also made a nice move into March of 2025. Yeah, those are the quantum names. Yeah, those things, it's not for the faint of heart.
It's really not. It's really not. One thing I want to talk about, I think I missed it, is Novus Nordic. I don't know if you heard about I think I sent you that thing, the
I
CEO
think I saw
stepping
that.
down and
Yeah.
all this stuff. Like what is your take on that? I don't know if you got a chance to read on it, but what is your take on that? Because it seemed like Eli Lilly is just like taking on all their businesses. I don't think Novus Nordic would have been like one of the ones that's actually like out there, right? Because I think I did the makers of Ozempic, I think.
hmm
So
So
I thought they kind of have like that market on lock.
to me, I think with the whole like the weight loss drug business,
Mhm.
to me, Eli Lilly is pouring a lot of money into that business. And I think that they just have a lot of cash to deploy, and I just don't know if how do you Norval Nordic? I don't know how to say
Yeah,
it, but
Novo Nordisk. Yeah,
I just maybe they're just thinking that it's big bank take little bank, and we can't compete. Now I don't know why he would completely step down.
I think he got pushed out. I don't think he stepped
Maybe
down.
got pushed back.
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah. So because Eli Lilly again, that's the big player in that space. Um, and yeah, I just feel like it's one of those big bank take little banks, and they just probably felt that maybe they couldn't compete. Maybe the CEO was thinking that they could, but the board was like, we can't keep draining money. I don't know. So it probably seems like a power struggle at the top.
yeah.
So
But I also think like I think they're blaming Eli Lilly for everything. But I think you also got to take into account hims and hers actually have their own, you know, GLP-1 drug also, and that's a lot cheaper than both of those companies. So I think they probably also took a share of the market when it comes to that weight loss drugs.
and it's crazy. Hims went from $28 to $64 in a
Yep.
matter of about a month.
Yep. And they had a really nice move today. Though. I think they was up like 10%.
Yeah, up 10% today. Woo.
Mm-hmm. So that's for me. That's interesting. The other interesting news that I want to talk about was the President Trump was not happy with Tim Cook basically moving production over to India. And I think he brought it up. Well, he's like, I'm not really happy with him moving production over to India. He should be investing more in the US and all that stuff. So I don't know how that impacted Apple stocks today or the past couple of days, but that's another interest. Ooh, actually, yeah, you got it dropped a little bit, but not a lot. Um, but that's actually like one of those things that we talked about, right? So technically, it's going to take Apple a long time for them to be able to kind of convert everything over. But it seemed like they are moving a lot faster. They said they can be up to like 65% by the end of the year, I think,
Mm,
operational wise, producing most of their phones in India. I was like, that's kind of fast. You know what I mean? People were thinking
yeah.
years, but they're like, nope. We're gonna get it done right now.
And
So
and the thing with President Trump's request, I mean, let's just be realistic. You cannot build iPhones in the United States and sell them at the price that people will buy them. The
Mm,
labor will be too expensive. It's just not possible. I don't think anybody, I mean, I think there were some reports saying that if iPhones were built in the United States, it would cost like 3,500 bucks.
yep.
I don't see anybody paying $3,500 for a phone, like
Nope.
especially from the price point that it's being sold at now.
No.
So to me, that's just not a realistic request to move all of your iPhone production to the United States. Not happening. Like
Makes
it
no
is
sense.
not happening. It doesn't make sense. I mean, they're going to price themselves out of the market by doing that. So that request to me is just, I don't know. Like I think that sometimes when people say stuff like that, I just go back and I just look at they probably failed all of their econ classes in college. That's how I look at it. Like you have to understand that a lot of the reason why certain items in our country, right, in the United States, are priced the way they're priced is because they're assembled in places where the labor is a lot cheaper.
Yep.
Like if Nike moved all of their production to the United States, you think Jordans are going to cost 200 bucks? Probably going to
No.
cost like 400, 500 because the labor is going to be more expensive. Labor is the highest cost for most companies. So if you move from somewhere where labor is cheap to somewhere where labor is more expensive, price goes up
Hmm.
tremendously. So the latest thought process is to lease mobile phones, no individual ownership. Uh, I mean, I
Wait. That's like taking us back though, because I remember like when you used to get phones back in the day, you used to pay like I think people still do it today, but it's like you pay like certain amount a month every month until you make up for that phone, until you pay off the phone off, and then you own it after that, right?
mhm,
Um, now I think Apple does have that what is this thing called? The program they have where you can switch your phone at any time. Basically, you
mhm,
don't even have to pay it off. You can switch it at any time. So basically, to keep you paying for that phone. So you might be right. I mean, we probably going back to like the device model rather than the data model. Because remember, we started first like you got to pay X amount for data. If you want like
correct, yeah,
this gigabyte, you pay X amount. But now it's like everybody's getting unlimited data, right?
yep,
But I think yeah, in order for them to keep making money, they have to make sure that you pay for something basically. So maybe yeah, the device might be how
yeah.
they
I would,
they, they
I
lease
would,
it
I
out.
would, I would never lease a phone.
Mm.
I would never
Mm-mm.
lease a phone. Just every time I go upgrade my phone, and I haven't upgraded my phone. Still have the iPhone 12. Once
Nice.
I go into the Apple store and I just pay the phone off,
Yep.
man,
You
I'm
don't
just done
nothing
with it.
else.
I don't like seeing that payment plan where you get, an extra 50, 10,
Yep.
$100. Just give me the damn phone.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. But if they're trying to keep people within their ecosystem
Mm.
and phones are getting more expensive, maybe that's something they move on to. I mean, now you can make payments on your DoorDash orders if you use Apple Pay now.
Man,
So
listen. You could put everything
yeah, you
on
can put
layaway
everything on a
now.
payment. You can put everything on a payment plan now. So
We used to call them layaways. They call them payment plans now.
they call them payment plans now. So I don't know. Maybe that's what they moved to. Yeah, maybe that's what they moved to. Yeah, Apple was the first company to permanently lease when phones were traded. They would sell them or give them to small markets. Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what they go back to. But I really think it is very unrealistic to think that Apple or anybody's going to build their phones in the US.
Yeah.
Now, unless the phones are built by robots and not people,
Then you can
then
see.
maybe.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But because I think Howard Lutnick was talking about robots building phones. I don't know how far away we are from that, but if you got people building phones in the US, yeah, it's not happening. No way.
And
No way.
that's. I mean, at the end of the day, Apple got to be more innovative. I think that's what they're finding themselves in. Like they're not being innovative anymore. So they need to figure out how to be more innovative and start bringing more money in. So they just have to figure it out. Charging people for to lease phone and all that stuff is happening right now, but it's like it's not sustainable. That's not how you build a company. A
And
billion,
I
multi-trillion dollar company. That's not how you build it.
and didn't they shut down their whole Apple Card business, the credit card
Man,
business?
they
And I think
just
they
yep.
tried to do like the Apple savings account thing.
No, no.
Right now, they are lost. To me, Apple is lost. They have no idea where their next revenue driver is going to be.
Mm-mm.
And until they figure that out, I mean, I'm not saying they're a bad company, but they're not a growth company, in my opinion.
No. Honestly, I'm still in the camp that they need to bring back their Apple Card. I know they spent a lot of money and then they scrapped that whole department up. But it's like I think that got people excited when they said
Hmm.
they was gonna come up with a card. I think that got people excited. But then when they kind of canceled, like, okay, what else you guys working on? So they need to bring that thing back, man. I don't know what they're gonna do. Maybe they're working on it in secret, but it's like you guys need to bring that up. You need to bring it back because yeah, there's no innovation happening right now.
Or maybe they start growing by acquisition. Maybe
I mean,
they
yeah,
got
I
they
guess.
got they got all that cash. I think I was listening to somebody on CNBC and they were saying Apple, the growth of Apple as a company looks like a consumer staple stock.
Yep.
But the price that the stock is trading at looks like a tech stock,
Yeah, tech stock. Yep.
but there's no growth in the company.
Nope. They're stagnant.
Yeah, they're stagnant, very stagnant. So I
They
don't know.
they sleep at the wheel right now. I
Yeah,
ain't gonna
sleep at the
lie.
wheel. And I
Yep.
and I keep going back to everything that they kind of brought out that they thought would be innovative, like the Vision Pro. Like that thing had hype for like what 1 or 2 weeks, where you had all these
And
like
it died
content
off.
creators like doing all these like reviews of it. That thing died off
It
real
just
quick.
died off. It
So
just I don't even know what's happening with that right now.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Dead money.
yeah, I guess. Oh, what do you think about Elon Musk satellite company is partnering up with United Airline to be able to provide
Yeah, so
internet for people?
that's been something that I heard about.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that that business that he's on Starlink,
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's going to be a revolutionary driver for him personally. Because if you look at
Yep.
where he's kind of going with it, I mean, he's providing internet to countries. I think the
Yep.
FAA is jumping on board with providing
Yep.
that technology to their towers. I'm actually going to fly United flight next week, so hopefully it's I can test it out. But um, I think Starlink and SpaceX are going to be the biggest drivers for Elon
Yep. Yep.
outside of Tesla. I don't. I mean, I don't like. I don't. I don't see Tesla growing their business. We'll see how the robotaxi thing does. I don't know how that's going to change the business, but the current business is slowing down. But I really think that he cares more about like Starlink and all the other stuff
Yep.
in the private markets than he does
Yep.
about Tesla.
Yep.
That's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Hmm. No,
But
no, no.
Starlink,
I think
yeah,
you're spot on.
Starlink is doing some things that are pretty cool behind the scenes. So
Yep. Yep. I like the concept of it. The only thing I feel like when you give one man too much power, they can abuse it anytime. You understand what I'm saying? It's because this man has
that
more
is true.
satellite than any other countries that's floating out there in the air. Like he has so many satellites up there, So like I say, if you give somebody that much power at one time, I mean, he basically gonna have monopoly on that atmosphere. Like
Mm.
who's gonna be sending their satellite up there? You know what I mean? So he basically has monopoly up there. So we got all these satellites hovering over the Earth, providing communication, and on top of that, I mean, talk about privacy, man. Like every like I don't know, man. I think it's a dangerous thing, but we'll see how it goes over the years. But there's gonna be a big issue with this coming in the next few years, honestly.
Yeah,
But
we'll see. But yeah,
yep.
that's Starlink is doing some cool stuff. But yeah, I don't know what the regulation is behind all that.
I
I
mean,
don't know what it's like.
who regulates space?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I really don't know. I do not
Uh,
know. That's a very good question.
who regulates space? Nobody regulates space. Like you
Yeah.
fly a rocket up there, nobody go like you can't fly a rocket on this side of
Yeah.
space. Like
I have no idea how that regulation works, to be honest with you. I have
yeah.
no idea, you
Oh
know.
man, that's gonna be
So
interesting. Anyway, let's move on to next week economic calendar. So we have a lot of federal speakers next week, man. We have a bunch of them speaking on Monday. Um, we have Bostic. I mean, people pay attention to Bostic a lot, so he's speaking on Monday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. On Tuesday, also there's a bunch of speakers. Also, Bostic is actually one of them again. So a bunch of speakers actually speaking on that. And then we have wow, they're speaking all week, all the way to Wednesday.
Oh wow.
What is happening?
Our next Fed meeting is not until June 18th, and then I know we get PCE on May 30th. Oh, also wanted to talk about PPI.
Mhm.
So PPI came in negative
Right.
this week. And I actually was trying to figure out why. Because if tariffs are making things more expensive for companies, then I would expect them to be passing on that price to the consumer.
Mhm.
Now, what I found out as I did my research is that the main reason why PPI was down was because the services sector was charging less because of lower demand. So, services sector would be things like airlines, hotels, and things like that. So, since they don't have physical goods that they import, right? What it shows was that they were charging the consumer less because demand was
Demand
low.
to drop. Yep.
I'll give you an example. So I'm flying out next week to Southern California. My round trip ticket on United was $60
Wait, wait. You going from where? From
from San Francisco to Southern California. So about an hour flight. My
60
round
bucks
trip ticket was $60
round trip.
round trip.
I need to start looking at flights, bro.
$60. Um, the rental
Hey,
car that I'm looking at, when I first booked it, they charged me 81 bucks. But every day I've been looking,
it goes down.
it's been going down. So I've been
Wow.
rebooking and now it's down to $69 for a full size.
Sheesh.
So not bad. Um, so I can see that, and I'm getting a lot of emails from flight companies like Southwest looking at cheaper prices.
Yep.
So PPI came in negative. I actually thought that because of that, the market was going to take off, but it
Take off.
didn't. Then Walmart also was
Yep.
saying that the price increases are coming.
Mhm.
So a lot of people are saying that what we've seen in the CPI data as far as tariffs, they're saying some companies are eating the cost right now,
Mm,
but they're going to pass it
they're gonna
down
pass it
later
down. It's
because
gonna get expensive.
they said Walmart has been eating up the cost of the tariffs so far,
Mhm.
but they're saying at some point that money is going to get passed on to the consumer.
Absolutely.
So we're going to have to wait and see what that looks like through this summer as
Mhm.
we start to get more data with the tariffs in effect.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so I don't know. We'll have to see what the Fed says next week.
Mhm.
And then we also need to start paying attention to whether or not we start to see, I mean, the Moody's downgrade, and if we start seeing higher inflation in the summer, those two things together are not good
Not
for
good.
stocks.
Yep. Yep.
So it will be an interesting Q2 to see if we see anything negative in the data. Because again, there is a lag behind tariff data. I think there is a lag. We just need to see how long it takes that
Right.
lag to show up in the data. Because
Right.
I
Right.
thought we would start seeing it in April, but it looks like we have not seen anything just yet.
Mhm.
And if Walmart's saying it's coming, I believe them.
We're probably gonna see it in May. I don't know. We'll probably see it
Yeah,
in the May data or whatever, but
yeah,
we shall see.
yeah, Walmart said yeah, it's coming. So
The the other thing I've been reading is I think I don't know if a lot of people are complaining about the tariffs, and most of those people that are complaining about the tariff are individuals who voted for Trump. They basically say like this is impacting us, so you
mhm.
need to do something about it. So in order to not lose any more elections coming up, right? Because if you have this president in the office who's making the economy worse for the people who voted for him, when
Hmm.
the election comes around, they're gonna be like, we need to see some changes. So the Republicans probably are worried now about the elections coming up to be able to be able to explain all these things that's happening basically and be able to hold
Hmm.
on to their seat. So I don't know how is that going to impact. I think that's like a really good time to watch what the president's going to do once the election comes around for like I'm talking about like the representative, the Congress, and all these different people, and in seeing exactly what's his reaction going to be in terms of tariff to be able to help those individuals maintain their seats. So we shall see. But I think that's also going to impact how long, if the after the 90 days, that he's actually going to lower the tariffs, or maybe he just slash the tariffs before the 90 days expires and we go back to like maybe like 5 to 10%. We don't know. So we
Yeah.
shall see.
Yeah. I think right now the consensus is that everybody's going to get hit with a 10% tariff across the board.
Yeah.
Whether or not they lower that in the future, I don't know. But if their goal is to bring down the deficit, to me, you have to bring in more revenue.
Right.
I don't know how this spending bill or this budget bill, how all of this debate is going to play out. What cost cutting measures they're going to take to reduce costs and reduce the spending. But I will say until that gets resolved, it would not surprise me if over the next week or so, we start to see the VIX creep above 20.
Mm-hmm.
That would not surprise me at all because if you just look at the last two times we got negative reactions with the downgrade from rating agencies, stocks had a pretty tough time. So I'll give you the dates. So go back and look at August 11th, 2000. August 11, 2011? No, let me look at my notes. It might have been August 15th. So August 5th, 2011 was when S&P downgraded the United States. And then August 1st, 2023 is when Fitch did it. So if you go look at the trajectory of stocks during those times, it was not pretty.
Coming down. Yeah.
So we'll see how this one plays out because again, we're in a completely different market environment. We've got inflation, we've got Fed, we've got tariffs. So
We got Trump.
we got Trump. So we've got two different completely market environments with
Yep.
what's going on. But I will say that stocks will have a hard time. It's possible they'll have a hard time figuring out what will happen, which is why I think the VIX will go up. But then again, I always put this out there. You're always one tweet away from a gap up or from a
Or
gap
gap
down.
down.
So
Yep. Yep.
all
Absolutely.
of those factors, will play into what happens next week. But I'm thinking the VIX will start to move up again,
Yep.
even though now we were under 18. I would not be surprised if we get above 20.
Get up there again. Yeah. But we shall see, man. Monday is definitely going to be interesting. This weekend is going to be interesting to see what the president going to say about this downgrades and how he feels
Hmm.
about it. Because this might be a downgrade on his whole presidency, so he's not going to take it lightly. I guarantee you that.
Yeah,
um, Next week, man, we have some really good earnings. Some notable earnings coming up next week.
lots
So
of retail. It looks like.
yep. So we have Home Depot, Palo Alto. We have Baidu is reporting as a Chinese company, Medtronic, MDT, Xpeng, which is the electric company that's based out of China. We also have Target reporting. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with Target. I'm pretty curious about this report that's going to
Yeah,
have with,
Target is a company that needs to figure it out because their
yeah,
stock has been
it's been
getting
getting beat.
hammered. Man, I remember I was man. This last summer. I
Mm,
sat down with this lady, retired man. She had $1 million in Target. Actually, maybe not a million, maybe like 800, 700,000.
hope she sold it, man.
Oh man, I don't know what. I told her to diversify away from Target, that there are better opportunities out there.
Yeah.
But I'm not her advisor, but she brought me in as a consultant. She said her advisor told her not to sell it.
Well, now she sees what happened. That is horrible, man.
Yeah, told her because what I was telling her was like if you listen to their earnings report, their business is broken right now,
Mm.
and it's reflecting in the stock price. Like, to, I just want to put this out there. I always want to tell people you cannot sit there and blindly buy individual stocks and saying, "Oh, this is a good company."
Mm.
It's always going to go up. Like I think we talked about this with Disney.
Yep. Yep.
Pay attention to what is going on in the business.
Yep.
You have to pay attention to financial statements and pay attention to earnings calls. I mean, now you can just go into Chat GPT and just ask for a summary of the last earnings call and it'll give it to you if
Yep.
you don't want to listen to the entire earnings call. Like
Yep.
we live in that time frame now.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's something wrong with the business, keep that in mind. Because again, we talked about Disney. If you held Disney over the last 10 years, you've actually lost
You
money.
lost money. Yep.
So
You're not even breaking even. You lost money.
correct. So now if you're starting to buy a company that is in the process of restructuring and rebuilding, like I'm in Intel right now. Intel has gotten smacked from its highs years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but now they're in the process of restructuring. So they're trying to restructure the business.
Right.
Had I bought Intel 3, 4, 5 years ago while the business was broken, that would have been a bad investment. Now I'm trying to buy it as they're restructuring, hopefully with the thought that they figure it out.
Right.
Risky investment,
Right.
but again, I would not have been buying Intel 2 or 3 years ago when there were signs that the business is broken and they really didn't have any sort of restructuring talks or any restructuring plans at that time. Now that they do, then you start thinking, okay, this might be a good time to buy. You also with Starbucks, you
Same
know,
thing. Yep.
Nike is another company that's fallen on hard times. But the one thing that I have not heard with Nike is what are you planning to do different in the future? Have not heard that yet from Nike, which is why I haven't been a buyer.
They ain't doing nothing.
I have not seen anything about Nike that they have said we need to restructure how our business works.
Mm.
The definition of sanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results.
Mm.
So we'll see if the new CEO can figure things out. We actually got a question in the chat box. Do you think Congress will pass the new tax code removing federal taxes for all workers? If it passes, do you think that would impact the U.S. revenue generation and stock market? To me, a tax code that removes federal taxes from all workers is a dangerous game
Mm.
for this is how I look at it. If I look at the US economy as a business, if you take away taxes from all workers, my question is where do you make up for the lost revenue?
Exactly. Exactly.
Where do you make it up?
Yep.
Do you make it up? Be it like you don't have many options. Do you
Th-
make
th-
it up with tariffs or something else?
Mhm.
Because remember, the US government only has two options for revenue
Yep.
taxes and
Yep.
tariffs.
Yep. Yep.
Or print more money. And you have the
And
issues
they
that you saw in like
devalue.
Zimbabwe and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, where the dollar value goes to crap.
Yep.
That's a dangerous game. I don't think there is a possibility that they remove federal taxes from
Yep.
from unless they have another way to make up for the revenue. And I don't know what that way is going to be. I really
Yeah.
don't have that answer. But that is
Yeah.
a dangerous game when you're running $1 trillion deficit. To me, that's like saying, all right, I got $100,000 in student loans. I'm just going to stop working.
Right. Somebody else has to pick the tab.
So somebody else is gonna have to pick up the tab.
Yep.
To
Yep.
me, that's a dangerous game.
Yep.
It's a dangerous game. I don't think it will pass.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever is floating that idea should be slapped across the face because that doesn't. The answer to cutting into a deficit is not reducing revenue,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't need a college degree or an economics degree to figure that out.
Nope.
That's common sense.
Yep. You got to reduce your spending
You got
and
to reduce your spending, and you got to increase
increase
revenue.
revenue. Yep. Yep. And I think they're trying to do that also by they're cutting like Medicare and Medicaid. They're cutting a lot of like the low income stuff that they're handing to people and stuff. But that's not. I don't think that's even remotely close to
Putting a
um
dent in it. I don't think. No,
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 no.
no, no,
I think
no.
I think I think the US we need to figure out. I mean, tariffs might be a good option to be able to increase revenue and stuff, but it's like we need to figure out another way to be able to increase revenue. There has to be something else. And maybe that's what Trump is trying to do by trying to bring all these companies back to the US so that way, we can bring the revenue back. But it's like
I
uh
I got the answer. Create a sovereign wealth fund and have Nancy Pelosi manage the money.
wait, we do have a sovereign wealth fund, don't we? I thought we do.
I mean,
I
I don't
think
know
I
what they. I don't know
I
what they.
think I think we
I don't know
do.
what's going on. Whoever's managing, if it's not Pelosi, I'm not on board with that.
I think
Let
I
her
think
manage it.
I think we do. I think we have a sovereign wealth fund that we actually have. I forgot what we invest in, but there's a really good book that I wrote. It's called The Man with the Key or something like that. It's about this
Hmm.
Middle Eastern guy from Pakistan that moved to the Dubai areas and all these different things and was able to like basically con the government, con Bill Gates, con a lot of people out of money because he was trying to build what do we call emerging companies in emerging market. Like
Mm,
yeah, it's a really good book if you guys got a chance to read it. But it gives you an idea about how other countries invest in other countries through businesses and stuff. So yeah, it's very interesting. Some of the other ones that we're gonna have coming up next week for earnings is Snowflakes. Zoom is also gonna be in there. Lowe's, TJ Maxx, and Palo Alto. So a mixture of retail and a couple of other cybersecurities in there, and a couple of maybe two or three of the Chinese companies. But yeah, I think next week's gonna be pretty interesting. Again, we have good earnings coming up. We have the downgrades, and then we have some of the Fed speakers also speaking. So we'll see how that's gonna impact the market. Well, as we wrap up, man, anything going next for next week that you want to talk about? Any advice?
so I will say this: if this downgrade on the U.S. debt creates a sell-off that um, takes away a lot of the gains that we've seen over the last month or so,
Mhm.
I will say this: don't let that opportunity slip you by again, because again, the U.S. debt issue. I don't know where the market's going to go after that.
Right.
But there is a possibility it could create opportunities to buy good companies at cheaper prices.
Mhm.
So create your shopping list. We've given you names to look at that you can put on your radar to possibly make some long-term investments
Yep.
over the next couple of years. So again, don't buy broken businesses, just buy broken stocks.
Mhm.
So we'll see what happens. We also got NVIDIA coming up in 2 weeks on the 28th.
Yep.
So I know that's not next week, but that's something I would keep in mind.
That's gonna be an interesting
But
one too.
yeah, we'll see how this whole debt downgrade plays off, and the whole budget thing not being able to get passed. I mean, all of those things could create volatility in the market. We could see some selling. How bad it'll get, we don't know yet. But if it starts to create opportunity, I hope you've been paying attention so that you can start to make investments that you can hold long term. So I'll leave on that note.
All right, Joe. That's a wrap up for today's episode of the Wall Street Rundown. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram. Make sure you guys check out the group. Also, we have the links in the bios and all that stuff.
Click the
So make sure you guys
subscribe
join us.
button as well.
Yes, we need more subscribers. So please, please, please send it to people. Don't be stingy. Let other people also jump in and be able to get these good gems. But other than that, man, make sure you guys stay tuned for next week when we talk about all the effects of the downgrades and what the Fed has been talking about, and also a couple of the earnings that actually going to happen by that time. But with that being said, we'll see you all on Wednesday of next week. All right,
Yep.
y'all.
All
Have
right.
a good night.
Take care.